Hi, my name is Bernadette Meister, and today I'll be presenting my Module 11 final project on High-Level Practice 15, which is all about providing scaffolded supports. This is part of my SEDN-602 course with Dr. Cook. I'm excited to dive into this topic because scaffolding is one of those teaching practices that we probably use every day without even realizing how powerful it is. This practice is essential for ensuring all students, including those with disabilities, can access learning in a way that's meaningful and challenging. We'll look at what this HLP means, how it's connected to inclusive education, specific classroom applications, the challenges we may face, and some strategies for overcoming them. So let's explore how scaffolding works and why it's so important for students with disabilities. So let's start with what scaffolding actually is. Think of an image of scaffolding on a building. It's temporary support that helps construction workers until the building can stand on its own. That's exactly what scaffolding in education is. We provide supports for students like prompts, models, or visuals, and then gradually remove them as students gain independence. HLP 15 lives under Domain 3, Instruction in Behavior and Academics, and connects to the pillar of explicit instruction and organized learning environments. Basically, it's all about giving students the tools they need to succeed and then stepping back at the right time. The ultimate goal is student mastery, students owning their learning without relying on us forever. You can think of it like training wheels on a bike. You don't just throw a kid on a two-wheeler, but you also don't keep the training wheels on forever. Now, why does scaffolding matter so much? Well, without it, many students with disabilities risk being placed in classrooms that are too restrictive, where they don't get the chance to access grade-level content. IDEA requires us to provide access to the least restrictive environment, and scaffolding is one of the best ways to make that happen. Scaffolding promotes independence. It's about helping kids get there, but then fading back so they feel proud of what they can do themselves. It also helps prevent what I call the Velcro effect, where students get stuck to adults because they were never taught to do things independently. And we can't forget about cultural and linguistic responsiveness. Dr. Jamie Pearson's work reminds us that Black autistic students and multilingual learners need scaffolds that respect their voices and backgrounds. That might mean incorporating a bilingual glossary or even using examples that reflect their cultural experiences. Scaffolding isn't one size fits all. Just like buildings have different shapes, students need different kinds of supports. Here's our first classroom example. Imagine a 5th grade science lesson on plant cycles. I might start with a graphic organizer showing each stage of plant growth. At first, I model filling in the first stage, which is sprouting, and then guide students as we work through the second stage together. As students become more confident, I fade those prompts and let them take over. By the end of the unit, students should be able to complete the entire cycle independently. You can see in this life cycle chart, using real visuals helps students connect with the content. And if I include plants that are culturally relevant to my students' backgrounds, they'll be more engaged. For example, if a student's family grows mango trees, why not include that in the cycle? That makes science more meaningful. Now let's jump to high school. Picture a 9th grade English class working on persuasive essays. Writing can feel overwhelming, so I scaffold by giving students sentence frames like, "One reason is," or "in contrast," and a simple checklist for self-editing. I model how to use these supports and then have students practice with partners during peer review. Over time, I remove the sentence frames but keep the checklist to encourage independence. This image about writing scaffolds shows just how flexible supports can be. Everything from sentence stems to graphic organizers. And for multilingual learners, scaffolds might include a bilingual word list or opportunities to brainstorm in their home language first. It's kind of like giving students the recipe card first, and then once they've cooked the meal a few times, they don't need the recipe anymore. Of course, scaffolding isn't without challenges. First, many teachers don't get enough training in how to scaffold effectively. Sometimes we oversupport and students become dependent on us. Other times, we pull away too quickly, leaving students frustrated. There is also the issue of bias. Pearson points out that Black autistic students are sometimes underestimated, so their supports aren't faded at the same pace as their peers. This can hold them back unnecessarily. And then there are structural barriers, large class sizes, limited resources, or not enough time for planning. These realities make it hard to individualize supports the way we want to. Notice the visual here on self-esteem. If we don't scaffold carefully, we risk hurting students' confidence instead of building it. So, do I recommend scaffolding? Absolutely, but with a few conditions. Scaffolding builds independence, confidence, and ensures students can access rigorous learning. But it has to be individualized and culturally responsive. That means we can't just throw generic supports at students. We need to plan them thoughtfully, fade them intentionally, and always check in with students' unique needs. When we get it right, scaffolding is one of the most powerful ways to help students move from needing support to owning their learning. I think of scaffolding as being like teaching someone to swim. At first, you give them floaties, then maybe you swim alongside them, and eventually you let them dive in on their own. That's the ultimate goal, students swimming confidently in their own learning.